Hi, Kitchen Kings and Queens. All right, today we are going to make something special. Okay, we are going to make, um, I'm going to call it Joe and Julia's Suprême de Volaille with braised rice or risotto. Okay, now that's a mouthful, but basically what it is it's very tender cooked chicken breast in a mushroom sauce, which will eventually become a mushroom cream sauce, and a delicate braised rice. We are using the EKCO, so this is our cooking with vintage cookware. So we're going to use a 10-inch uh, skillet covered, and we're going to use the 2-quart saucepan, okay, with lid. And again, remember how we have this radiant core in here? That's going to be used on the lowest flame, okay? So we won't need to be too worried about it. I'm also going to use my Sunbeam Oscar because a lot of this you can do by hand. You could dice it to a fine chop, but it really doesn't matter, okay? It's not something that's going to be presented. It's going to be developed into a sauce, okay? So we're going to use that to chop up our vegetables. And I think, no, let me plug it in here. Okay. I'm going to plug in my little secret here is I took an extension cord and I tied it to my island here so that I have an outlet so that I can use this as like a total cooking. So I really love cooking at an island. I wish the cooktop was in an island, but there's not enough space here. So this stainless steel table that I got, it's perfectly sized. It's great. It's enough room to work on, but it's also enough room on either side to maneuver. Okay, so we're going to use that for our cooking. Okay, so I'm going to prepare what I need for the risotto. Now, this risotto is not Italian risotto. Okay, it's a very, very different thing. And I learned this lesson or this recipe by watching old episodes of Julia Child. I've changed it a little bit because it just it needed a couple things different from me, I thought. So the recipe's a little different. Okay. Uh, it's going to use a little bit more shallot than she used, um, and not just onion. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an onion here. I have like a half of an onion, and I'm going to put it in there, and we're going to chop it up fine. And I'm also going to add a shallot to it, and I'm going to resist the urge to add garlic, okay? And the reason why I'm going to resist the urge to add garlic is because um, this is a very delicate recipe, and garlic can burn. It's going to have the braise in there, so I'm going to resist that urge, okay? So I'm going to flip this around so you can see it. And this, you saw me talk about before. This is just like a food processor. I can't wait till I can dig out the chute attachment because that's really great too. But it just works by clicking the activator tab here into the unit, and it goes quick. So we want like a nice fine chop. And it gives you this option, as you do this to kind of pulse it, which is great. Okay, so I think I'm just going to scrape down the sides here. And I'm not really running my knife. I'm just kind of using it as like a little scoop, because you don't want plastic in your vegetables. Okay, that's enough. So we're going to use similar vegetables in the preparation of the chicken sauce. Okay, the addition is going to be mushrooms. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the burner here. And this, so one of the interesting things about this as opposed to a Italian risotto, this is so much easier and it's really good and it's really different. Okay, it has the same name, but it is a very different beast. Okay, this is just braised rice. So risotto, Italian risotto, I should say. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my Italian card with that because this risotto comes from Italian. Okay, the French stole it or borrowed it and made it their own with this process. And really, theirs is like a braised rice, which risotto is too, but it's just such a more complex process. The braised rice in an Italian risotto, it requires a lot of scooping and stuff. This process is so much easier. Okay, you're going to see how great and easy this is. Okay, so we're going to use about like 2 tablespoons of butter in there. Okay, I'm going to put that over the pan and we're going to cook it. While that is cooking, and I'm going to put the pat of butter in the middle, we're going to measure out our rice. Okay, now for this recipe are going to use a cup and a half of rice. Okay, so there's our half cup and here's our cup of rice. Okay, now use the right measuring utensils for the right material. For dry measure, you use these measuring cups. For wet measure, you use this Pyrex measuring for liquid. Okay, and we're going to need both of them. So this, again, easy. This just uses regular old long grain rice. Okay, nothing fancy or special here. It's just long grain rice. Whereas if you were to do the Italian style risotto, you need a very starchy rice called arborio rice. Okay, so this is nice and easy. Anyone can get this. You probably have these ingredients in your refrigerator, so it's not anything hard. Okay. The other thing is you don't have to wash the rice either. Okay, so most rice, so that it doesn't get gummy, you have to go through these rinsing processes. So you would take like a strainer like this, you'd put it in there, you'd rinse it, you'd make sure that all the starch comes off. You don't have to do that here because what you're going to do is you're going to cook off the starch. Okay, that's how you put all that butter in there. The butter is going to coat the grains of rice and it's going to go through this transition process of milky at first, then it's going to get translucent, then it's going to go back to milky. And that's when you know that you are ready. Okay, so this is going to be a very quick and easy process. Okay, so we're going to add in our rice. There's our 1 cup. Here's our 1/4 cup. And we're going to start. And this part, you do need to kind of baby it a little bit because you have to observe the rice grains and make sure they go through their color change process, okay? So you want them translucent, so they're milky right now, okay? And it's a little challenging to see because you have all of this white in there. You have the white of the onion, and then you have the white of the rice. So you do really have to kind of pay attention here, okay? So there's our milky, okay? And we're just going to cook it. And this cooking process, the color change, that's what's going to make sure that you get your make sure that it doesn't get gummy, okay? This rice, you would think, oh my gosh, I didn't clean it and all this, that, and the other thing. It's going to be like Gum City. No, it is not at all, okay? This is nice, fluffy, beautiful rice, okay? So, again, like I said, you just want to make sure that you're moving this around, okay? We're at our translucent stage, so we just want to cook it a little bit more. Make sure we get back to our, and I'm turning it down a little bit because we don't want it to burn. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm going to prepare my liquid. Okay, so we are using my homemade stock here. Okay, and you need a cup and a half. So the proportions, we used 1 1/4 cup. Your proportions for it are that you use double the proportions. So because we used a cup and a half, we need 2 cups and, I'm sorry, a cup and a quarter. We need 2 cups and a half. Okay. So I'm going to pour that in. Okay. And then the rest of it is going to be water. So there's 2 cups. And here's a half a cup. Okay. And I want to get that in there because even though I thawed this out, I still have some ice in there. So I want to make sure that that ice is melted. So I get that all in there. Okay. And that's what the recipe calls for. So half stock, half water. Okay, and you can also, if you don't have stock, you can just use the bouillon. Okay, I would use, if you can get it, that better than bouillon. Bouillon is really good. Or you could use the bouillon cubes. Okay, so we need a couple other things before we get this started. So I'm actually gonna give that a little rinse. Leave that in there. All right, so we need a couple other things for our risotto, okay? My friend got me some parsley. I'm going to cut off the stems, okay? And I'm going to use the stems in this recipe for a couple reasons, okay? You are not going to eat this. This is just the flavor. So there are some dead pieces there, okay? You just make sure you check. You might want to rinse it too, okay? So these stems have all the flavor that the parsley has, okay? Now I have all that fresh parsley that I could use. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to just throw it away. So why am I going to use the actual parsley when I can just use the stems, okay? So we need a bunch of parsley, and we need 1 bay leaf, okay? And I'm going to tuck the bay leaf into the stems, okay? And then we're going to use this kitchen twine, and we're going to tie it up, okay? This is an almost bouquet garni, okay, which is just a fancy word for an herb bouquet, okay? Usually a bouquet garni will have both parsley, bay, and thyme, okay? You can put that in there if you have it, but for this recipe, it's really, thyme is a very strong, overpowering flavor. Okay, so I'm going to take that and have these little handles for that. I'm going to bury that into there. Okay, we're almost up to a boil. And once we have a boil, we're going to cover it. Okay, and then we're going to set the timer for approximately 18 minutes, okay? You have to kind of check it. So 18 minutes is kind of the average for this, but it's not the end all and be all, okay? So I'm gonna bring my Oscar back over here, and then we're gonna get started on our other vegetables for the chicken supreme, okay? So I didn't wash this. I don't have to because we're using the same vegetables. Okay, I don't have any more onions, so we're not using onion, but we are going to use shallots and mushrooms. Oh, speaking of shallot. So I, over the weekend, or over the day off that I had, I went to visit my mom, who babysits my nephew on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I had off from work on Tuesday, so I went down to visit them. She taught him this funny new thing. So whenever she says, shallot, he giggles and laughs, and he just has such a great time. So that's a new Joshism. Okay, I'm going to take a couple of these mushrooms, and I'm not going to, excuse me, I'm not going to use them all. And in fact, I think I'm going to look for the smaller ones. Okay, because I'm going to make later on today, I'm going to make a stuffed mushroom recipe. Okay, so maybe this might be something you want to try for Thanksgiving. It might be a good meal for Thanksgiving. Okay, so I'm going to keep those aside, and I'm going to rinse these. Okay, so if you don't rinse mushrooms when you get them, but if you want to rinse them before you cook them, that's probably not a terrible idea. Okay, because they are grown in the ground, in the mud. Okay, or not the mud, in dirt. Okay, and you want to dry them off anyway because they need to be kind of moist, or not moist, so they don't get rubbery. Okay, and I'm just putting them in here, and this one has kind of a bigger stem. Now notice I'm keeping the stems in there, okay? They are tough to eat by themselves, but everything in here is going to get chopped up, okay? So they are very flavorful and they're good, but they need to be chopped up, okay? So again, we'll see that in the in the video. Okay, so I don't think I need my cutting board anymore. And you just kind of want like a fine chop, okay? Because this is just gonna go in. Okay, our rice is boiling, so we're gonna set the timer for 18. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. We're gonna get our skillet going. This, I'm telling you, this is a great meal because it cooks in no time. Okay, so we're gonna put about that's like 2.5, 3 tablespoons of butter into the pan. Okay, and I'm gonna set that up, get that going. This really, I mean, it's just done. Okay, so we're done with our chopper. We'll leave that over here so that it's ready when we need it. Okay, put Oscar back where he belongs. And he's no Oscar the Grouch. He's a good Oscar. Okay, put this in the recycling. And while that while this butter is preparing and we're getting ready for the vegetables, we'll prepare the chicken. Okay, and this cooks so quickly. Okay, it's a very delicate cooking. And then we're going to make the sauce. Okay, and I do have to grab one more ingredient for the sauce. Okay, so we just want to make sure all the butter's melted. Take our mushrooms, and mushrooms are so good with butter. They are like little sponges, and when it comes to butter, they just suck them right up. Okay, so I'm gonna put that over there for a second and get my mushrooms in. And we're, like I said, this cookware does not need high heat. Okay, and especially with the powerful gas stove, it just doesn't really need that. So I'm turning it down to the lowest setting I can. That's one of the things that I think people get a little mixed up on. I think I'm going to add some more butter too. Just because we have a big pan and we have a lot of vegetables. Okay. So I'm going to take our chicken here, and I need my knife because I need to cut my lemon in half here. Okay. And we're going to season our chicken. Okay. So I'm going to use this little, I have so many electric reamers and they work great, but I figure this one's out. Might as well just use that. Okay. And you want this kind of like as a layer, okay? Because this is the base of your sauce, okay? And we're gonna bury the chicken in this sauce, which is really just vegetables and butter. Now you can add other vegetables there. You want to add kind of those aromatic type vegetables. So you want to add celery, carrots, like a finely diced pepper would be good. Okay. Those are really good things to add. Okay. Now this is our, and these are very thinly sliced chicken breast. Okay. So here's our lemon juice. Okay. And here's our chicken breast. Okay. And I'm going to put them, I'm going to they were defrosting. So I'm gonna kind of pour off the excess liquid, and I'm gonna replace it with this lemon juice. Okay, and that's gonna be kind of like a little marinade. Okay, for this chicken. Okay, definitely want to. Whenever you're working with chicken, you definitely, especially raw chicken, you definitely want to rinse your hands after touching them. Okay. Oh, look at this. Okay. Remember I told you about the waterless cooking? How it could spin? Oh, well, because I don't know if you could see that, but that's it spinning. So that's the vapor seal. Okay. So it's really a cool technique. Okay. I'm going to put some pepper on here. And I still have some extra lemon juice here. We may use that later. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there. And then I have my Maldon salt. Okay. And then we're going to take a fork, flip them over, and we're going to do the same thing, just with the salt and pepper. The lemon juices on that side. Well, you know what? Let's add a little bit more lemon juice too. Okay. Add our pepper. Add our salt. And we are good. Okay. Our sauce here is coming along. Okay, it's very good. I'm glad I added that extra butter. So that's like about 4 tablespoons of butter. Okay. And you want a nice, like, single layer. Okay. And you just want to soften those vegetables. I'm sorry, I just had one ingredient that I forgot to get. Okay, well, we are going to have to use red wine. Okay, interesting. Okay, so usually you use white wine. Okay, so I'm going to put our chicken breast into our sauce here. And I'm going to pour our marinade over top. And that little acid from the lemon juice really does make this chicken good. So I'm going to turn it up a little bit. I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to set the timer for that one for about 8 minutes. Okay. Clear off our table here. Throw away our trash. And we'll be back. Okay, Kitchen Kings and Queens, we are back. So our risotto is done. Okay, so we're gonna take out our little bouquet garni here. Okay, and we'll just put that in there. And you can see the rice is just, it's similar in consistency to risotto. So it's a little creamy, but it's also not gummy. Okay, So we're going to put a little portion of rice here. Okay. And our chicken is just about done. So we're going to take a look at that in a second. And then we have to prepare our sauce. Okay. So take out our chicken breast here. And then we're going to use our remaining liquid to prepare our sauce. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. And I'm gonna kind of scrape off. So what I did was I flipped these and we coated them with the sauce. So that really makes them nice and delicate and delicious. It keeps the moisture in because, you know, there's no fat on a chicken breast. Okay, so it's not really a good medium. So here's what we have left. Okay, we have a lot of delicious shallot and mushroom. Okay, we're gonna put that back over the heat. And then we're gonna add, oh, I did find I had sparkling white wine, so I'm gonna use that. Okay, now you do not have to put wine in if you don't drink alcohol. Well, see, that's why you wouldn't buy alcohol if you don't drink it. So you wouldn't just want to have this laying around. But the wine cooks, the alcohol cooks off. So it doesn't, there's no alcoholic content in there, but it does give this rich taste. Okay, so I'm going to add in some of that wine. Okay, and this happens to be a sparkling wine, but it's a white wine. Okay, and I'm going to also add in some chicken broth, okay, that I had around. Okay, and we're going to cook that down. Okay, so I'm going to crank up the heat now, and we're going to cook that down. Okay, I'm going to take our chicken breast here, and we're going to plate it, okay, over top of our rice. Now, this is a very, as you saw, a very simple dish that you can prepare any day. Like, it's an easy weekday meal that you can prepare. But, you know, it's not, you're missing something here. What are we missing on this plate? Okay, we're missing green. Okay, so this is a very hearty, delicious, special meal. It's a meal that you could have with guests. It's a meal you can have just you and your special someone, or it's a meal that you can have, you know, just for you. So it's going to be just for me today for lunch. But what you want to pair this with is like a nice big green salad, and a very light green salad. Okay, so you want something like a very light vinaigrette, lots of vegetables, just something really refreshing to kind of counteract the richness of this. Because you're going to see this sauce, it's going to get even more rich than it already is. Okay, and it's already got the butter, it's got wine, it's got what's it called, chicken stock, it's got mushrooms that have, and shallots that have soaked up and like really absorbed all that. And then we're going to finish it with the rest of our cream. Okay, and this cream, this is kitchen cream. Okay, so this is a very, it's a very thick cream. Okay, it's meant for this application. So if you're using like heavy cream or even light cream, if you want to, or half and half, if you want to kind of lighten it up a little bit, you can use that, but you're gonna have to add a thickener. So you could either add roux or like a cornstarch slurry, which would be really good on this because the cornstarch slurry is a little bit more velvety. Okay, so that's what I would recommend if you're gonna do that. Okay, I think I'm gonna pour the rest of this uh, lemon juice in too. Okay, so the lemon juice gives a nice little bit of acidic flavor to it. I'm also, this is a little piece of garlic that I had. I think I'm going to grate a clove of garlic in there too. Okay, so I'm going to take one of my garlic cloves here, a nice chunky one, and I'm going to grate that in to the sauce. Okay, I know, I said I was going to try not to, but you know me, I just can't resist garlic, and I think the French would approve. They love garlic too. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of grate that in. And because this is kind of boiling and simmering, we don't have to worry about it burning. Okay, if it was in there earlier, it might have been a bit of a problem for us to have to worry about it burning. But because it's now kind of sauteing and reducing, we're probably pretty good. Okay. And this is a microplane grater. These are great. If you could find them at like a thrift store or even these, this is an investment that's worth the money. They're made in the USA, so you know, me and being an American kitchen cub, I prefer my made in the USA products. But it's it's a tool that's used to grate the garlic, cheese, and it creates this very fluffy thing. And the cool story is these were made by a guy who was a woodworker. He made woodworking tools. And his wife, who liked to cook, she would go in and steal his woodworking tools and use them for kitchen stuff, for grating and things like that. So finally he made her some, and that's how that company became a cooking company. And they're not. The company is a woodworking company, so it's not a cooking company. They just have that line. I'm sorry if I'm sweating here. It is very hot in here. I was telling my mom, my furnace has two settings, meat locker and face melting. So it's really, really hot in here. Also, you may notice all this stuff around. It's my transition time, so I'm transitioning from the warm weather to the cooler weather. So I'm finally giving in that my days of outdoor entertaining are over for the year, and I'm doing my cleaning and putting away of all my outdoor stuff and getting ready for Thanksgiving. It's just a lot going on here, so I apologize for all the stuff that's around. Okay, so our sauce is reducing. You want it to be syrupy, okay? And we're getting kind of close to it. It's not quite there, but we're getting kind of close to that texture. Okay. So I think I'm going to crank up the heat a little bit so we get a little bit more evaporation. And again, remember, you don't want to use high heat unless you have a lot of liquid in there. And we have a lot of liquid, and that's what I'm trying to bring down before I add the cream. We want to reduce down that liquid so we get a syrupy consistency. So it's okay if you have the liquid in there. You won't burn your pan, you won't burn your food, and it will get you there faster. But you have to keep an eye on it and keep stirring it. So we're just about there. It's kind of hard to tell because it's chunky. The vegetables are all in there, but you had to kind of look at the liquid and see how that's going. Okay. All right. I'm gonna put my lid in here too because I don't need that. Man, I wish you could smell this sauce. The wine, I'm telling you, see if you, even if you don't drink wine or, want alcohol in your house, just try and like get a cup of it to put in a sauce. It just adds this extra layer. Obviously, if you have issues with alcohol, you don't want to tempt yourself like that. I mean, even smelling it to pour it in there might be detrimental. But if you just don't drink alcohol for whatever reason, just add it to find somebody that can lend you a cup or so and add it to your sauce because it really does take this to the next level in terms of flavor. I don't even know. It's one of those things like you can't describe what it is, but you know if it's there or not there. And I'm so glad I took the time to find my white wine because I mean red wine would work, but it's different. And you want to use kind of a lighter meats, you use a lighter wine. Okay, so red wine is great for beef and veal and things like that. Well, maybe not veal, but beef and lamb. But white wine's good for lighter meats like chicken and fish and things like that. Okay, we're there. Okay, so I think just a little bit longer. And don't rush these things, okay? This was so quick, okay? Don't rush the sauce. This is taking the longest amount of time, but it's worth the effort, okay? It really is worth the time and attention to get it right. Okay? Now, let's say you really, really, really wanted to keep things lightish, okay? Because there is quite a bit of butter in here, and that's kind of the basis of the sauce. Okay, you can absolutely just use this as your sauce. Okay, this is what it looks like now. It clear. It's very, very delicious. This would be very delicious. Okay, but we are gonna take it to the next level. So we're gonna add in this cream. And again, this is cooking cream, so it's got thickness. So it's like almost like a clotted cream. So I don't need to add any thickener in here to get what I want. Okay. So we're just going to add that in, and we're going to add that over low, and that's just going to take this sauce to the next level. Okay. Now, they make a really great spatula that is flat. this would be a great application for that, to kind of prepare the pan sauce. In fact, that's what those spatulas are made for. Now, I don't have one of those yet, but I'm going to use my regular spatula here. Okay, and some of the reduction got onto the sides, so you want to kind of scrape that down too. Okay. You just want to make sure it all comes together. Make sure our cream thickens. And then our sauce is done. Okay. So we're good. All right. So we're going to take our sauce here and we're going to spoon it over. And we are good. Okay. Might want to spoon some of the sauce around the plate. Et voila. Okay. And let's see. Make sure our plate is all clean. And that, my friends, is a dinner for any time of the year, special occasion, everyday occasion, whatever you want, okay? So bye for now, Kitchen Kings and Queens. Like, share, and subscribe. Keep an eye out. We're going to have some other things coming.